Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Tai'Shar Manethrin, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Will.
I'm Sam.
And today we are starting Fires of Heaven.
Yeah.
The fifth book. And, I really enjoy this one. I think this is...
Oh, me too.
I think really this one and Shadow Rising, I think are like peak Jordan, really.
Oh, yeah. This is our circus book.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, there's some things in this book that get a little tedious, but it's...
It's like we're knocking on the door of the slog, but this is not the slog.
No, not yet, for sure.
Yeah, he still knew exactly where he was going at this point.
Right. So, Sam, why don't you start walking us through?
Absolutely. So the first very pertinent, important point I want to make about this book is I bought it used at a bookstore, and it came with a frequent shopper's card for Hot Topic that already had 5 punches. So my bookmark for this book has been a Hot Topic. That's a bookmark that says, shop till you drop. Dead. So
that's very colorful information.
It's on topic because topic is in the store's name, and we pride ourselves on being both on topic and very organized on this podcast.
It's true.
And also, I can just picture Rand wearing those baggy Hot Topic bondage pants.
Those like huge
making me
ones
happy.
with the chains and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And maybe a Deadpool T-shirt. Anyway,
sounds good.
On to the prologue. So we start off with Elida is the Emerlin, and it's going about like I would expect.
Right.
With her as all of her leadership qualities. The sitters just have zero respect for her, and they're just kind of sitting there talking about world politics in front of her without including her in the conversation.
Right.
Which of course makes her poutier than usual.
Right, yeah.
We do get some details about what's going on in the world that we didn't necessarily know. The Saldeans are moving an army away from the Blight. There's a war between Aradoman and Terabon. Of course, we know about that. Nynaeve and Elaine have sort of been involved a little bit. Right. Elaine and Galad are missing from the tower, which is problematic for the tower's relationship they endure. And so they're kind of like, oh, we need to find them. Morgaze could lay claim to the Sun Throne, and of course, we'll get a lot more into what's going on with Morgaze this book. And finally, Gawain and his younglings are sort of doing whatever they want. They're fighting the White Cloaks. They sort of ostensibly are loyal to the White Tower still, but they pretty much do what they want. It's a new book, so we have a new venue for Padan Fain to be awful. Now he's advising Elida, so that's that we get the little tidbits there about what's going on, what he's telling her, and once again it's the same sort of thing as with Pedro Niall. He has information she wants, and so she knows he's not really great, but is willing to sort of overlook that, just like Pedro Niall did.
I will say it's here in the beginning when there's a description of the Tower Hall that I don't know that we've gotten in past books. It just describes like the marble work and the stone work and all the different things. You've got the flame of Tarvalin in the middle, different things like that. And really, I was just sitting there thinking, all this description and all, which is so, like I say, peak Jordan.
Yeah,
it's you get a lot of real great detail here, and I really just find myself hoping that they do it justice when I'm starting to get this picture reminiscence of Rivendell from the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
And just as far as the level of detail,
they really nailed that. And that is like that first kind of camera pan of Tarvalin needs to be epic.
Right.
It really does. Yeah. Andor, like we talked about Caemlyn, I could sort of picture it different ways, and I'm not too worried about that. But Tarvalin, they really need to nail, definitely. And the Stone of Tyr, a couple of places like that.
Right, yeah. There's a handful of things, I think, and we'll get into it in this book as well, but Rodion, too.
Yes, 100%. Anyway. Yeah, I agree with that.
Go on so we can get to that.
Sure. So we also, new book and new Forsaken. Got to have a new boss fight, new boss to deal with. So we have a little perspective of Ravin. Have we decided how he's...
I think I say Ravine. I don't know.
In my head,
Robin?
I always said Robin, but I think that the narrators of the audiobooks say Ravine, so whatever.
Robin!
Yes. Exactly. So he has a get-together with a few of the others, Lanfear, Grendel, and Samael. Lanfear sort of arranged it. We see her pulling strings significantly in this book, the previous book and in this book. And they're talking about how to deal with Rand. And one little detail is Grendel is using a servant as a chair. She's got a couple of people under compulsion that she just kind of, they're just kind of like doing whatever she says to do.
Is this kind of our first introduction to Grendel?
That may be true. Yeah.
I think it is. Just the whole business of her using compulsion.
Right. Just kind of like haphazardly on everyone.
Right, and to a great extent, to the point that the person is basically useless.
Yeah, right. It's like she turns them into sort of like a happy zombie who does whatever she wants. And it's like, it seems like at that point, when you reach that point, it's sort of, you've just destroyed this person more or less.
Right. Yeah, there's no going back. And they're not really, like, their free will is completely gone at that point.
Right. It's not like what Ravine does, as we see in this book, in his approach, which is to do just enough to control like actions, but still leave the person intact, and more significantly, still leave the person appearing to the outside world at least to still be in control of themselves and who they are. But we know that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So the prologue done, chapter 1, we return to the ongoing adventures of Men and the still Aes Sedai and Logain. So they're in trouble for accidentally burning down a barn,
right?
And they stole some cash. And it's funny to see, all this stuff, all the things that they do, and Swan is sort of single-minded in her purpose and just sort of doesn't care. In this scene, she does things that Aes Sedai would never do. Take an oath that she's going to break.
Right.
For one, they can because they're not bound by the 3 oaths anymore. But she is like really going all in on this concept that she's going to do whatever it takes to achieve her goal. And it's her way of coping with being stilled and not just giving into the bleakness, so to speak, of being stilled.
Yeah.
So anyway, they got caught and they're standing trial, and Gareth Bryn he's kind of over this fiefdom. This is his area. And so he's the man who is in charge and listens to their case, is going to pass judgment. So he listens to them and he decides that they can work off their debt at his house, but he doesn't want them to just run away. So he requires them to take an oath to make sure they won't run off. And so this is from Men's perspective. She's thinking, well, hopefully Swan will take a low caliber oath so that we can break it, because we don't want to be working in this man's house for all our lives. Nope. She takes the strongest possible oath. She says, under the light hope of rebirth and etc., like the strongest possible oath that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, but realizing, knowing she will not. And so, of course, Gareth Bryn is like, oh, okay, wow. Yeah, that works.
Kind of the closest phrase I can think of in at least our American is like swearing on your mother's grave.
Right. This is not like cross my heart and hope to die, stick a needle through my eye. This is a little bit stronger than that, I would say.
Right.
So he's like, all right, great. So he sends them with his liegemen to, like on a wagon and carriage to his house. But Logain shows up to help them escape, cracks the guy over the head, doesn't kill him, knocks him out. Gareth Bryn, so we shift to Gareth Bryn, and he's poleaxed, shocked by this turn of events.
Right.
So he decides to chase after them because they broke their oath, dang it. But really, it's probably because he already has the hots for Swan, just a little bit.
Well, and of course, at this point, he doesn't even know who she is. He's just like,
that's. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's important.
Well, you've got a lot of kind of interesting dynamics in that scene with the fact that they look younger, and Swan is repeatedly challenging him just by staring at him, because she's still very much Swan. She's still got that same attitude of the Amerlin seat.
Exactly. So he decides to chase after them. Learns as he's leaving, he's meeting back up with he's getting the band back together, the old geezers, to chase after them. So one of the guys reports to him about what's been going on with Kalendor, Rand's escapades, and significantly that the Amerlin seat has been deposed and killed.
Right.
And let me just say, this is my favorite subplot in this book. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff, but in which the retired Gareth Bryn and his Rough Riders mount up again. It's just great. I just keep waiting to hear one of them say, "We're getting too old for this," and they all say
exactly.
it. but it's a lot of fun. So the other perspective we have here is Altima. And so if anyone else like me has forgotten who that is, it's a tyrant noble woman who Rand sent to Caemlyn from Tyr. And so she gets to Caemlyn, and Ravine promptly uses compulsion on her to learn stuff about Rand, which she doesn't really know much of anything. And then we also briefly get a moment of Morgaine's perspective in which she tries and fails to get free of Ravine's compulsion. So this is when we sort of see from her perspective why she's been acting weird and what's been going on. And it's because she's completely in the thrall of Ravine's compulsion. It's the reason she's been doing all the crazy stuff she's been doing. On to chapter 2, we are returned to Rand, who is hanging out in Roydion with Osmodian, who is, of course, still using the name Jason the Tail. He's sort of still masquerading as Rand's Gleeman. He is playing his harp. And Moraine, so Rand is sitting there looking out the window, watching Moraine load some of the Terangrial loot that was from the Roydion Square into the Dark Friends wagons. Why is Rand okay with this? Like, I understand on the one hand, he doesn't want to like blow their cover because he doesn't want to lose his Forsaken buddy who's teaching him how to channel Sidene. But on the other hand, like, these Dark Friends are taking all this like priceless Aes Sedai stuff. Like, okay, Moraine's going to be supervising them, but man, you should have at least given her a heads up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be here in this chapter where we hear in his internal monologue him saying that if Moraine finds out that she'll think he's a Dark Friend, and so, which I'm like, I don't know, I feel like you could explain it to Moraine, like of anybody, like she would understand it, as far as, because she's kind of a whatever it takes kind of person.
Exactly. And also, why did she not get suspicious that these folks were Dark Friends? I mean, Rand, like, right off the bat was like, they seem shady, these are probably Dark Friends, but I don't know, Moraine, it never seems to occur to her, or maybe she just doesn't care. I guess that's a possibility that she, if they were to turn coat, she probably feels like she could, between her and Land, could handle whatever they did. But it did seem just sort of odd to me from the get-go that like this was happening. Like, we should stop this. Someone should stop this.
Of course, we don't get a perspective. She may just be like on a hair trigger, ready to,
that's true,
blast them all at any moment, just waiting to be certain before she.
It's like, what else? Like, they happen to have wagons and are in the waste, and I need to get this stuff back to the White Tower. So one way or another. We're just going to go as far as we can.
Whatever it takes.
That's true, which we see plenty more of from her in this book. Absolutely.
Right.
So apparently the Aiel were mainly put off from the forbidden city of Roydion by the Wall of Fog, because now they are starting to settle in the city. So I guess it's hard to be the forbidden city when the Chosen One has wrecked it, and also after all its secrets that were revealed at the Golden Bowl. So it's sort of lost all of its magic, really. And Rand is there. The chiefs of the clans that are with him, the 6 clans, want to talk about the Brotherless. I don't know if we've learned that name yet at this point, but of course these are the Aiel who have learned the truth about their past, thrown down their weapons, and just kind of left. They want to kind of figure out what to do, if there's anything to do about that. Moraine shows up and slices one of the seals on the Dark One's prison with a butter knife. Less than excellent outcome. I'm just picturing Trollocs and Myrddraal running around with knives and forks in hand, just Moraine, I'll pay you 5 Andoran crowns to eat that sliver of Dark One prison. It's just like, what in the world is going on here? And of course,
why did that occur to her to try that? Exactly.
Like, why risk it?
It seems an unusual thing, just of all the things I'm going to test, like Quaindy are supposed to be unbreakable. So I'm just going to run a little butter knife through it to make sure that, you know what I'm saying? If she was going to like demonstrate that it's unbreakable, smash it against a rock or
right. It just takes me back to camp when I had a bunch of friends that were obsessed with destroying Nalgene because it's supposed to be unbreakable, and they finally took a railroad tie and dropped it on its shattered. You should have sent that video to Nalgene and get a free one.
Nalgene was the Quaindy of the early 2000s.
Exactly. Absolutely. No doubt about it. So this whole time, Rand is just being insufferable to Moraine. He's got it in his head that no matter what she says, she's trying to manipulate him. And to be fair, she is, but she also genuinely wants to help him.
Right.
He is needlessly a jerk, like constantly to a point in this book.
I'd say he's like a typical 20-year-old guy at this point. I think there's a lot of times where we see the characters acting way beyond what is probably realistic for their age. And I think this is really him just being, Mom, just let me do my thing, okay? I'm trying to save the world. Oh, God, leave me alone.
I went off to school and I went off to college and I grew up.
I got these cool tattoos and I'm a man now.
I like it. That's good. And Egwene doesn't put up with it. She gets onto him for being rude. She says, "Your head is swelled up like an overripe melon, Rand al'Thor." And as she's saying this, Rand pictures Ilyena. And so also at one point he says, "They'll accept my peace or I'll be buried in Conbriat," which earns him a discordant harp sound from Natail, probably because it was something Lews Therin would say.
Right.
And we get a lot more of that sort of type of stuff in this book, and I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah.
Also, this is just a random thought. How does Rand not know the name Ilyena? Just thinking that's a kind of a household name. You should know these things about Lews Therin at this point. You should have read some books.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that would be like us growing up and not knowing the name like John Benet Ramsey or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that insensitive? Sorry.
I think it's been long enough. I don't think. And he thinks, I don't know any woman named Ilyena. So maybe it's just willful denial that he's recalling a dead man's memories.
Right.
That makes sense. I could see that.
I mean, no one wants to go crazy.
Right. Even knowing it's going to happen, just no.
Right.
No.
Yeah. No, I am not remembering this dead man's wife.
This must have been somebody I met in Bear Lawn.
Right.
Anything but that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then his wine goblet floats to his hand, presumably because he really looks like he needs a drink, which was a poor choice, though, because Egwene is still standing there.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go directly into chapter 3, and Rand just flips out on Jason Natail, wraps him up in flows of air after Egwene leaves for channeling in front of her. Though, I mean, really, honestly, you're being paranoid, man. I mean, how is she ever going to make the mental leap that it wasn't you channeling? And that that he has his own pet Forsaken. I mean, you're just being over paranoid.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, you do have a pet Forsaken, so maybe you should be.
Probably my favorite thing in this book, thinking about it, might actually be Asmodean. I really like this guy he's totally impotent now, and he's kind of resigned in this. Like court bard. I'm just going to sit here and play my harp
as the ship burns down around me or whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
It's no big deal. And he's got, this kind of obviously cynical kind of sense of humor to him where I might as well just enjoy this kind of, sinking ship that I'm on.
Right. Yeah. At one point, Rand starts telling him his plan. He's like, "I'm going to kill myself." Right.
Yeah.
So that's his.
I think he'll be a fun character whenever he shows up.
Yeah, I do too. I definitely think that'll be a fun back and forth. So, he can't do much because of Lanfear's inverted shield that she placed on him, but he can channel a little bit. Perhaps enough to float a goblet to Rand's hand.
Right.
And the shield will gradually reduce in strength over time. That's important to remember. And Rand, of course, I'm sure remembers that. So, of course, Rand doesn't trust him. But Asmodean sort of responds anytime Rand says that by saying, the Forsaken would kill me on sight if they saw me now. So I really have no choice but to throw myself in with you. So I'm going to try to do my best to teach you what you want to know because of that, even though there are limits to what he can and can't teach him because he's has the shield on him.
Yeah.
And so as established last book, Rand's keeping Natail around to teach him how to channel without shooting himself in the foot, magically speaking. Because, I mean, that as we've seen, he just has no idea what he's doing, and it's not like Moraine can help him. So Natail gives him a little info about linking, which is interesting, linking circles. Men, of course, cannot form a circle without a woman at all. So individual men are stronger in the power than individual women, but it evens out because women are linked can take on a man. And I think we've probably talked about this before, but this is where it was really broken down for Rand at this point. And this makes sense to Rand. It kind of rings true. Elaine and Egwene are considered two of the strongest in the power for 1,000 years or more, and he easily overpowered them without without any trouble when he had his little temper tantrum, but they weren't linked. And a full circle of 13 women could overpower all but the most powerful men is the general convention.
Yeah.
So Rand tells Osmodian that he wants to cleanse Saidin, and this is when Osmodian responds that I'm going to kill myself when the Dark One gets free. So that's kind of the end of that conversation. Rand channels to keep him in the room, kind of like puts up traps or wards or something, and then heads back to his place. And on the way, he runs into Matt, who is, of course, we switch to Matt's perspective. Matt, who is drinking and playing with knives, like you do.
Right.
He's also singing Jack of the Shadows, which is, I just love some of these lyrics. We'll drink the wine till the cup is dry, and kiss the girls so they'll not cry, and toss the dice until we fly to dance with Jack of the Shadows.
Of course.
This is great. So he's playing a game sort of like shooting clay pigeons, but for throwing knives instead of shotguns. So it's like dusk, getting dark, and the Aiel are ready to pack it up. And of course, they're gambling, and Matt's taking all their money. But Matt wants to keep playing, so he says, do one more. He says, I could hit a target blindfolded. So they're like, okay. So puts on a blindfold, throws a knife after they throw something up in the air. And thunk lands, and it's the arm of a chair that he's pierced with a knife, and it's like just purely luck, 100% because he was blindfolded. So he's so they're kind of the IR like, yeah, we'll play again with you real soon.
I this brings up a whole thing of with Matt, what percentage of any given talent he appears to have is just luck.
Right. I would say it would seem on the surface that Quarterstaff is not, or is mostly not, maybe his accuracy with the bow and arrow, mostly not, and maybe even his ability with knife throwing, unless he has a blindfold on.
Yeah.
How much of chance is introduced into any given moment that
That's true.
He's doing?
Because, of course, what he found out back in Tyr was that it was really randomness that allowed for his luck to work, that if he was trying, that it didn't actually play into it at all.
Right. And then also there's it's like, yeah, he got memories from these dead men, and he talks about how he's died in all these battles, and that's the very next point I was going to make. But it's like, how much did he also what skills could he have also gained from them? I don't know if that's probably not a thing. I don't know.
That's true.
But certainly experience.
Yeah, like Neo in the Matrix had all that stuff uploaded into his brain at once.
Exactly.
It's
so
kind of like that.
We know he remembers battle tactics, sort of the commander level. It's like, how much does that also play into like hand-to-hand combat or other things? It's a fair question.
Yeah, muscle memory is still memory.
Right. So he remembers mostly battles, remembers dying many times, which is sure very pleasant. Like, I think if I remember dying, I would like be constantly thinking about that. Like, it'd be hard to need to go to therapy for the memories I've gained from the foxes, the snakes and the foxes.
Right, exactly.
So an older Aiel lady, probably 30, named Melindra, walks up and asks if he can hit a target blindfolded every time. And he says most of the time. And he's like, let me give you a necklace from my bag of loot. And she responds with, I accept your offer. Okay. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So she looked like a cat studying a mouse. So then he sees Rand and excuses himself before she can metaphorically or literally pounce. So Matt calls Rand's name a couple of times, doesn't get a response, then tries Luz Theron, and Rand turns around. So Matt tells him he wants to leave with Kadir's wagons, and Rand says, well, I'm not going to stop you, but we will all go where the wheel weaves us. Gets back, of course, to something we talked about a while ago, which was that, you can't resist wherever the wheel is going to take you when you're Taviran. Rand does at least tell him not to trust Kadir, which he told, Moraine that, or other people that, but he does tell Matt that at least. So then Rand heads on, and Melindra gives Matt his spear and his winnings. Matt realizes she's about 2 inches taller than he is, which is not surprising for an Aiel.
Yeah.
Asks her if she knows anything about the Daughter of the Nine Moons. She says, nope. And those are the magic words for Matt. So they leave together.
Okay. Well, we'll stop there for now. Until next time, we hope to hear from you. It's been cool to occasionally see folks commenting on things on Facebook or replying to us on Twitter that they are actually listening, that they're going to look forward to the next episode. So visit our website at tsmpodcast.com and fill out our contact form. Say hey. If you say something nice, maybe we'll give you a shout out on the show. And And if you give us feedback, we do take that stuff to heart. We want to provide for you as good podcast as virtually no money can buy.
Right.
We want to hear about the things we get wrong. So feel free to let us know and we'll correct ourselves on upcoming podcasts. You can also find us on all of the different social medias, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook at Podcast TSM. Stop by, follow us, say hey. Also, wherever you get your podcast, give us a rating and a review, share us on your social media, tag us, say hey. We'd be glad to say hey back. So until next time, Sam.
Tai'Shar Manetheren.